Welcome to another episode of Scale Up Real Estate. Today, our guest is Britney. I'm super excited on what Britney got to share. Britney is a Airbnb investor and do mainly invest in short-term rental. Yeah, Britney, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing good. Are
Yeah,
you
we had
right?
some snow in DC and I knew it was coming and I haven't checked in on my property in Virginia in a while. So I was like, you know what? Why don't I drive down? It was yesterday on a Sunday. And then I'll come here, I'll do some restocking, check on the house, make sure everything's okay because there's always, things that you want to check in on and then just kind of wait out the little snowstorm in DC. I mean, it's fun, but it's also like it's convenient that it's like probably 15 degrees warmer here than it is there. So there's actually no snow and I can run errands and get around and work from here and it's super peaceful. So decided to get away and it's just checking in on the house now.
How far is DC from Virginia, actually?
Good question. So I guess from this house, because like technically DC touches Virginia, but from this house, it's usually 3 hours. If I would have left like really early in the morning or late at night, it could have been 2 hours and 45 minutes for
hmm
me.
hmm
And then, but because of traffic yesterday, it was like 3.5 hours. And from where I live in DC as well, it kind of adds on a little bit of time. So not too bad. I would say typically it averages about 3 hours.
Okay, and do you like regularly check on the properties and you do that yourself, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, okay.
So like, yeah, what do you do? Maybe for all of
Yeah.
it,
I'll
Brittany,
give
what do you
some
do?
I'll give some background.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of properties that I own that are rentals, as well as my one in DC. I have one in Nashville, Pretty in Pink, and then one in Virginia called Chanel by the Shore, and they're themed. And then I also am co-hosting property managing for other properties as well for clients, as well as helping with design, sourcing the deals, etc. So I have one properties on the side that's more of the consulting or hands-on. Or if somebody's like, they come to me and they're like, I don't know where to start. I want to get a property. Like I would make sure to, set them up with a realtor in a market,
Huh?
truly like go through it with them, help them
Uh-huh.
find the opportunity depending on how hands-on, hands-off they want to be.
hmm
Present it, and then from there get it up with designing it, setting it up, managing it, marketing it. I do all the hiring for like the cleaners and the maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. It's just all depending on what people need because some people are like, I don't want to do anything, like you just handle it, and I'm like, okay. And then some people are like, I only need this aspect of it, could you do that? And so yeah, that's a little bit.
Mm. And like sourcing is okay. Sourcing is for someone who wanna get into investing or they wanna have more deals, but they don't know where to get the deals, right? So you source
Yeah.
it for them.
Yep, and that can look a lot of different ways as well. So like
hmm
truly if somebody's wanting to be hands off, it's like, okay, like I can truly look in like all different markets, figuring out like what makes sense and doing a market analysis. But sometimes it depends on what like they're wanting it for. So like I always try to ask my clients like get to know a little bit about their background because sometimes they're like, okay, I want a second home in, Fort Lauderdale. So then I know to look in that area. Or maybe they're a little more open minded. They're just like Florida in general. And then I can kind of go from there and see what looks best and crunch the numbers and make sure. Cause it's like if they're just wanting a second home where, maybe they want to keep it maintained as well as, generating some revenue to pay the mortgage and all that, that's one thing. If they're looking for just a true investment, that's a totally different thing. So it's like
Oh,
all
okay.
about goals because the numbers make a difference. Because if they're wanting to go and spend time in that house and they're wanting to retire there or whatever that might be, the numbers are going to look different than if you're just trying to just purely have this as like something you make a profit off of every month.
hmm
So there's just so much that goes into it initially, depending on their needs for
hmm
that.
What do you mean by numbers? Is it a fee you charge them, or is it a percentage of the profit, or what do you mean numbers?
I would just say what they're going to make after they pay, the property management fee, after they're paying for like any, unforeseen maintenance. It could be, just like basic bills of, gas and electric. It could be lawn, just like what they're projected to make after that. So like, for instance, like how well the property is going to do, how much it's
Mhm.
going to bring in on, the direct booking site, Airbnb, VRBO, on top of all the other expenses.
I see. Okay. And that gonna be different depending on what's their goal and how much, I guess, how much work is on your end, right? Whether you only do the sourcing or you also like help them with flooring,
Yeah.
cleaning, yeah,
Yeah, and like the
new
furniture initially,
kitchen, yeah.
like so that's the thing. It's like it all just is based on like goals and budget. That's why it's
Hmm.
kind of sounds a little ambiguous, but like, you know, for furnishing, you know, somebody could say, you know, my budget's, you know, 20K, or
Yeah.
they could be like, my budget's a million. You know, it makes a little bit of a difference. And then on top of that, I think it's also just like I have a whole spreadsheet that I use when evaluating if something is a good deal or not. And, you know, if the percentage doesn't look as good, but it's somebody's like dream home that they want to go to with their family, you know, then maybe it doesn't matter as much as long as they're not like, you know, losing a bunch.
Hmm.
But then if they're just wanting it as an investment property, then that percentage needs to be a little bit more in the green when it comes to like the profit that they're going to be making every month.
That makes sense. That's maybe like go one step back because you only do short-term rental, right?
Yes.
And so my question here is, what's the main advantage of short-term rental and which kind of investors it makes like more sense for which type of investors?
Great question. So I would say the advantages are a few different things.
Hmm.
Okay. So if you're actually wanting to ever go there, obviously if it's like a long-term rental, you're not gonna be able to do that. You could do that with like a midterm rental, which are you familiar with midterm rentals?
No, more like
Those are
long-term and short-term. Long-term
Yep.
and short-term. Midterm, I barely heard of that.
Okay, I'll explain that too.
Yeah.
So midterm is like typically longer stays. So like I'd say it's 30 days and above, but it's somewhere like less than a year. So typically I would say it's like a month to a few months and they're furnished as
Oh,
well. So
okay.
like those do just there's so many things we can talk about, but I'll start with this. Those do really well in areas where like maybe the zoning doesn't work for a short term. So for instance, let's take Virginia for an example, at least Hampton Roads area and Hampton, Virginia specifically, where I am now. They're only allowing a certain amount per zone. They have it like split up throughout the
Oh, okay.
and
So
so
let's say one, like what's I don't know the numbers, but like let's say
yes, like zone 1 or
2,000 short-term rentals in this area, right?
yeah.
And if okay,
Well,
and
and it's the way they do it too. It's like it's more so like this little section of the zone can only have 7 or it can only be within X amount of feet from another one or whatever that
mhm,
is. So if there's too many, or in Nashville, there's certain areas too where you can have them, you have to get a specific permit. Like you might not be able to get one in a certain area for one reason or the other. So then you can do a short term, or I mean, a midterm rental and then still see better profits and get, you know, more turnover than what you would for a long term. So, like for a midterm, oftentimes they're targeting people that are maybe moving to the area that are looking to buy a house and they need somewhere to stay
yeah,
a long term. Or maybe it's, you know, it could be the same for like a military family. It doesn't have to be like a corporate position. It could be traveling, you know, nurses and doctors and physical therapists. It could
hmm,
be literally there's a variety of reasons. And I'd say during COVID, and people still do this, people that are remote like to travel around and, you know, maybe live there somewhere for a month at a time or whatever that might be. So it's some
yeah.
sort
This
of
is me. This is me.
I know I'm interested in doing that. So there's like different midterm rentals where they only rent for 30 days or more at a
Hmm.
time. So there's those options. But regardless, to get back to your question, I guess like the
Yeah,
pros and cons. I think a few of the pros of the short term rental is like statistically speaking, you know, sometimes when you have a long term rental, you're only making like a couple $100s on top of like
yeah.
whatever like the mortgage rent is or whatever.
Hmm.
Short-term rentals, you have the opportunity to sometimes make like thousands. So you're going to see more, but then there's more work that's put into it because you're having more turnover. So whether you're managing yourself or you're hiring a property manager, you know, there's turnover every week. There's, you know, you furnish it. So there's opportunities for things to break, but
Uh-huh.
typically you have insurance or you charge the guest. So that's fine. I'd say another benefit aside from like the revenue is that you constantly have somebody in there cleaning the place. So there's always someone checking
So
in to see the guest.
okay. So the place is always clean.
Well, yeah, because it's like if it's a short term rental and
Yeah,
somebody's
yeah, yeah.
for,
It-
you know, 3 days or
yeah.
whatever,
You have
you
to
know,
clean that
else is
after that, right?
your house is getting deep
Mm-hmm.
cleaned constantly,
Okay.
which is great. And then on top of that, like if there's issues, because like there was a horror story that one of my clients at one of my corporate job had told me, where he had a rental in Alexandria, Virginia. It's like right outside of DC, great area. And they hadn't been in there for a year because it's a long-term rental. And these people were, renting from them for years at a time. And there, when they went to, get the place and, turn it over, and that those people moved out, it was infested with cockroaches,
Oh.
um, holes in the walls. So
Mm-hmm.
many things needed to be replaced. It was really bad. And like, if it was like a short-term rental, you would have been able to mitigate that a lot sooner because,
Yeah.
you or your cleaners or your inspectors are seeing the place so often.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think the main benefits are, if you ever want to go there, you know, to check in on like the status of your property and make sure it stays clean. And then I guess the third would just be like the revenue. So that's why I've always preferred going after the short-term rentals.
So
Just
the revenue, what was the first one?
yeah, the revenue, making sure it's clean, like
Oh,
checking it
making sure it's
out.
okay, making sure it's clean.
And then if you ever wanted to actually go there yourself and enjoy the property.
So if you want to have the flexibility, right? So for yourself or your family,
Yeah.
that's an added value for that.
Yeah. Yes.
And in terms of revenue, like how much is it? Like, can you give me like a few example of how much you brought the property for, and what's like the profit you're getting on a monthly basis, for example, and like
Yeah.
how
I mean,
much
I
can
could
you
give
get
you.
for a long term as well for the same size and everything?
Yeah, so it obviously varies depending on, I could give you specifics, but just to give you like kind of an
Yeah, just
overview.
give me like one example or.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So obviously depends on the market,
Mhm.
depends on the size of the house. Like obviously if you can buy a house that's like millions of dollars, it's beachfront, you put a lot into it,
Yeah.
then like you're gonna make amazing investments and returns on that. But then if it's something, maybe smaller, that's not as in a good neighborhood, and like, depending on that circumstance, maybe you didn't put into it a lot, furnishing or amenity wise, it's not going to do as well.
Hmm.
So, it's really cool because like I guess I'll just give you a real time example. So the one in Virginia, like oftentimes one booking, especially in the summertime, pays the mortgage for me
How much is the mortgage?
in a few days.
How
So my mortgage here is 1,800 a month.
1800. Okay. And you got that cover like for like a 3 or 5 days a
Yeah.
stay.
So like it's cool because when I initially bought it, I wasn't trying to
Hmm.
I wasn't even thinking, I was more looking at it as like a second home. So
Yeah.
I wasn't even transparently, I wasn't even really crunching any numbers, which is crazy because now I use like insane Excel spreadsheets when I do this, but it was kind of luck of the draw
Hmm.
at first. So at first, all I really cared about was like, I just want to pay the mortgage. I didn't even care about making anything like on top of that because I was like, that wasn't my goal. I didn't know I was going to be in this field or anything like that. So I was like, all I care about is really just being able to come visit with my family and friends and, having it be taken care of and paying the
Hmm.
mortgage. And then I was like, okay, this is booking all the time because when I crunched my own like numbers, when I say crunch my numbers, I didn't even use a document. I just like used a calculator. Was like, okay, if it only books, this much in the summertime, this should pay it for the rest of the year. Well, because I didn't do any market analysis on the area, um, I wasn't being as strategic as I am now because like that wasn't the goal at the time before I,
Yeah. You just
but
wanted a second home, right?
yeah, so I wasn't even looking into the fact that, okay, there's multiple military bases around here. I'm right next to an HBCU, which is a historically Black college and university.
Okay.
Hampton University is right there. I did look at this. I will say I was strategically looking at this, but I'm like 5 minutes from both of the beaches here. So I didn't want something inland. I wanted something that was within like a 10-minute drive.
10
And I
minutes.
accomplished that with like a 5-minute drive from the beach. And then there's also just like people that come in for conferences, there's concerts, there's like local events. Not to sound morbid, but I had a few people stay here for a funeral as well. There is a like a
Why not?
national
If it's a
cemetery.
nice place, why not?
I know there's a national cemetery next door, but it's I think it's for mostly like the Civil War and World War II. So like I don't even think they're adding more people there, but I think there's just like it's just when you're in a metropolitan that happens, and then it's perfect too because where I'm located is 30 minutes north of Virginia Beach, which I'd say is the farthest attraction. So there's also like Norfolk and like a lot on the way there. And then north of me, there's Newport News, which has like Christopher Newport. Oh yeah, there's ODU, which is another university around here. And then even more north, so 30 minutes north, is Colonial Williamsburg, which is like, Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, like, the first settlements in the US and the famous ones as well. So that's like really cool. There's like Busch Gardens and, the biggest water park, I think, in the country. And like there's just a lot over here. So I feel like where
Like
I'm
enough
located.
people gonna visit, right? If
Yeah. So I got kind of lucky, but now I'm a lot more strategic. So if I was really looking into a place, I thought about getting a place. I didn't end up pulling the trigger on this. This was a little over a year ago in West Virginia. I love West Virginia. You don't hear that a lot, but I think it's the most beautiful state in the country, and it's very affordable. And I love New River Gorge, the national park. And so when I was looking into, and obviously national parks are huge, and I was looking into like where I found a town that was close by that also has West Virginia's tech campus, their West WVU. And then it also had like, it used to be a coal mining town. So it had like historic attractions for that. I just look and see what other things are in the area aside from like the main attraction, whether that's like the beach or for that case, it's the national park, because I want to make sure, you want to diversify, and make sure that it can withstand things. So like, for instance, if like something was to go wrong, okay, well, what else is in the area that would bring people in? So that's kind of the way.
okay.
Yeah. And I don't even know if I answered your original question, but I think I did when you asked about the short term or versus long term.
Yeah, I think like there might be like one part of the my question that wasn't answered. I guess like what type of investor like it suits more for them like to do short-term rental compared to like
I
long
think anybody,
more
anybody who
like a
wants.
high level question, right? So it's not
Yeah, no,
all the
I
disadvantages and that, but
That's a great question. I was going to say, I think it's really, I mean, I guess the most easy way to answer this
Mhm.
is somebody who has at least like a cushion of capital up front. So, like, for instance, you need to be able to there's arbitrage, which is where I think you're familiar because I think we talked about this before, but it's where you rent a place that allows you to short term instead of just long-term renting and they're renting it to you. It's almost like a sublease. So there's that option where you wouldn't need as much upfront aside from like money for the furnishing, but even then, like depending on the credit card you use and all that, you could do it. But I'd say like the ideal avatar would be somebody who has the money for the down payment, and
Money
then
for down
somebody who
payment.
has, the money for like a couple months of the mortgage and to initially get it up and running with the furnishing. So you don't have to like, it doesn't have to be, every property, you need hundreds of thousands initially, but just depending on what you're looking at, I would say having that. I don't think you should risk it of like not, I'd say just err on the side of caution with making sure you could at least pay the first couple months of the mortgage, and the furnishing.
Yeah, and if you want to go there, right? So if this is a area you want to go as well from time to time, then that's an add-on as well.
Yeah, and like other than that, that's pretty much it because it's like there's not even like a specific type of person because it's like
Mhm.
even if you don't want to be the one doing all the work,
You can
you can
hire a
just
property
get
manager.
somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like someone like me who just would take it completely off someone's plate. So that's not the problem. And then the other thing is just like it's good to diversify. So like I have some people that I've worked with where maybe they have a couple long-term rentals and they're wanting a short-term rental. Maybe they also, invested in a
Uh,
restaurant group. Maybe they invested in, sort of warehouse or some sort of distribution facility. Like there's different types of people who maybe have made, different types of investments. And then this is maybe their first time. But I think it's great because you just never know what's going to happen with the economy and, with certain types of businesses. So like when you have different things that you're investing in and you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, it's
mhm. Okay, okay. What I didn't ask today, and no
fun.
one It's like in the beginning, it's like how we actually got started into real estate investing.
Okay, we can dial it back.
Yeah,
Okay.
go back to that.
Yeah.
Been doing it
So,
for 3 years, right?
yep. Yep. It's been a little over 3 years. Well, even before that, I had bought my place, my condo in DC. And I was thinking, this will be great. Like I was already starting to have this mindset that I was like a few years from now, if I was to ever move or, whatever, I don't want to get rid of my place. I don't want to sell it. I want to keep it forever. I want to, especially in a market like DC where I think it's probably one of the only recession proof cities in the country just because of the government. So I was like, this is wonderful. I love my area, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, you know what? What we'll do is I'll buy this. And then, down the road, if I need to rent it out, I just like crunch some numbers. I was thinking more long term, although because of the way it's set up and everything, it would be great for a short term, but there's certain like laws and all that in DC. So would probably go more of the midterm or the long term rental if I was to ever move, but I still live there. So I was already kind of thinking about this. And then so when my family and so I always have to get creative on holidays for my parents. So they have their wedding anniversaries, their birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day. And I'm like, oh my God, every holiday, I'm like, okay, what do they need? Okay, dad got a new knife set. Okay, cool. Oh, there's a new, juice bar that opened down the street. Here's a gift card. You know, I'm always getting like creative. And so this time I was like, well, my dad loves history and my mom and I haven't been at all. And my dad hasn't been to Colonial Williamsburg since he was a kid
Hmm.
and he loves history. And I'm like, it's literally 2.5 hours from DC. I was like, why would we not go when they're visiting me one time? So I think it was probably either their anniversary or Father's Day, I was like, I'll get the hotel or Airbnb in the area. So I was looking and I couldn't find anything good. And that was close to Williamsburg. The hotels were kind of ick. So then I found an Airbnb in Hampton, Virginia that said that it was like a 2-minute walk from the beach. And I was like, I don't know this area. I'm not familiar. I've been to Virginia Beach. I haven't been here. We stayed there and I was worried too, because when we go to the beach, like it's usually somewhere, you know, a little more tropical. So I was like, this is different. But my mom and dad loved it. And then there was a house for sale. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I thought it was super affordable. And even my dad, does not take risks, even told me, he was like, this would be a good investment for you. And I was like, what? He's giving me his blessing. So that house already had like 8 offers. So I kept looking over the next couple months, found the one that I'm at now. And, like that's how it started. I just wanted to be able to come down and escape from DC and, go to the beach, explore the area. I mean, just like I mentioned, like there's so much history, so many great museums. I live down the street from like the NASA museum.
Hmm.
Um, I could go on and on about all the attractions in the area. It's really, really great. So I was like, this is great. And it's driving distance, I can bring my dog. I'm perfect. So then when I got that up, like a month or two later, I had an itch to do an all pink place. And I was like, I want another property. So I looked into it, and Scottsdale and Nashville, I was like, those are like bachelorette capitals. But because Nashville was closer and you didn't have to have a pool, because at the time I was worried about liabilities, I'm not now. I was like, let's do one there. And then from there, I was like, well, maybe I should dial it back on buying them and maybe try to help others who want to get it started. And, with whatever they need, I really enjoy the decor piece of it. I have 2 Instagram accounts for each of my properties that do really well. So,
Okay.
which I'll show you if I haven't sent you yet. And
Like you get the properties with your Instagram account.
yeah, I'll show you. So I market them. I think it'll show up on here. So let's see. Sometimes I feel like when you're doing a video chat, it doesn't, but I'll show you anyways. So this is here, 1 second, pulling it up. Yeah. So I was like, I enjoy doing the social media pages. I was like, I enjoy every aspect of it. So I'm like, why don't you can kind of see it. This is the Nashville one.
Okay. Oh, so you have a page for one for Nashville and
Yeah.
another one for,
Virginia Beach. Yeah.
but why? Why did you split it up?
Yeah. So
And this
that's
is me the marketer asking.
shoot, I'll take any tips you have too. You can check out my pages and give me some advice. So yeah, I have TikToks for them as well. So TikToks and Instagrams. So the reason I split it up is
Yeah.
because for like the SEO,
Hmm.
The way I have it, like the Nashville part in my bio, Nashville Airbnb or like Virginia Beach Airbnb, if somebody was like looking for a property and maybe didn't resort to going on like Airbnb or VRBO like platforms directly, or even Google for that matter, because a lot of people are using, Instagram, especially like my ideal avatars, because the fact that like in
What's
Nashville,
your
it's
idea of avatar?
well, in Nashville, it's a lot of bachelorettes and birthdays. So
Mm.
those are you typically people. I mean, we get a lot of people getting married, which historically speaking is a lot of women in their like 20s and 30s, that are coming to do a bachelorette party. And then on top of that, I've had birthdays that are for like 21st birthday, even like a fifth birthday. I had a 30th birthday, a 40th birthday. So it's typically, people who are going to be Instagram users. So they'll look it up and they'll be able to find it. So for instance, and then it will pop up. And I've been told, like by people who found my page, that it is one of the first ones that pop up on Instagram. I also do it because let's say something does go wrong with
Hmm.
Airbnb or VRBO. I want to make sure that I can withstand that. So if they were to shut down, I want my business to keep. So if you have an Instagram page, people could still find you through a different platform and then also book like directly if they wanted to as well. And then I think the other thing is that I don't know about you, but when I go to a new restaurant, let's say in DC, I'm a big foodie. I will look up the Instagram page of the restaurant. And it kind of just like you can get see pictures, like aesthetically it's helpful
Okay.
what the ambiance is. I want to see what the food presentation looks like. And for the properties, it's another thing. Like you just get an idea of like what your time is going to be like. Oh, they used a decorating service, or oh my gosh, they hired this caterer, or wow, the girls took this really cute picture. Like girls are always trying to find like inspiration for that type of stuff. And so it's just a way that they can look it up and kind of solidify making the booking and feel comfortable like okay the property looks like this like we're good like I just think it's another way to market it and generate business.
Okay. Yeah, I think you have your ICP or ideal custom profile like very dialed in, right?
Yeah.
I kind of hear that it's more like women. Is that
Yeah,
correct? Like
but
they're like
happy to host bachelor parties,
yeah, I don't
happy to
know.
host, yeah, like there are other people that come in sometimes too, but it is a lot of it is mostly women, I'd say.
Okay, like and do you like from the visual but also like the language, like how you market it? Is
Oh, yeah.
that directly for that? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you want me to like read you some of the captions, I guess.
All good, all good. I just
You
want
get the
to
point, but yeah, I mean, it's all to try to target, you can kind of see.
yeah,
So,
I can't really see, but
no, it's so hard on here. I can send you the links
yeah.
after. You can get the idea.
Okay.
It's fun. It's also just like it's enjoyable for me too. If I hated it, like I would just outsource it, but I really like doing it. And I've had a couple of interns as well that have helped me with the
Okay.
page. Right now I'm running them on my own, and as I scale too, I'll be obviously hiring more help for it, but it's fun. Like I don't ever want to be like completely hands off with it. It's like very enjoyable to me.
Like and if you enjoy the business itself, right, and you don't really have success yet, it can keep you like do it longer, and that definitely helps.
Exactly. No,
Who
for
doesn't
sure.
want to be a happy person doing their
No,
day
I
to day,
know. It's like
right? So
it's like if it gives you energy, like move in that direction. And that's kind of like the way that I look at it. Obviously, Airbnb can have its like hiccups, and doing short term rentals, and there's, bad days and good days and things can go wrong and that's fine. But if you really like it, and you like that hospitality aspect and the
yeah,
business aspect, it's great. But even if you don't, it really doesn't matter because you can just hire somebody to do it
do
for
that.
you. So you don't have to like it. Like I have a friend, he also invests in like
Ah, I
startups
said he.
for
He doesn't
healthcare.
like it at all.
No, but he's not interested in like
Okay.
some of the stuff with the healthcare. Yet it doesn't matter because he knows the people he's working with are like
Mhm.
experts and he's investing in it because of that and because it's good to diversify and it's a good investment. So you don't even have to like it. Like I wouldn't do what I was doing if I didn't like it, but like even if I didn't like it, I would still think it was a good investment even if cuz initially I thought that I
Yeah,
was going to just have somebody else manage for me.
yeah.
Um, and I decided that this is like what I enjoy and I like doing it. So, anyone can change their mind at any point too.
Yeah, that's the best of both worlds anyways. It works and you like it, right?
Yeah. Why did you just, I know like this whole journey for you is really cool of you trying to figure out, you're talking to how many people again? 100, 100?
No, not that many. I started in November
I
with
know, but what is your goal? I forgot how many you were
a
going to try.
goal. I don't think I have a specific goal. Like right now, me is I want to talk to investors so that I learn more, right? But like once I do investing myself, it's gonna be even more interesting to talk to people who have done it more than me. So I guess like I don't think like I gonna stop doing the podcast. It's gonna be like a long-term project for me.
It's fun. And I think I told you this too, but I have a podcast as well, or it's mostly Instagram live now, but I'm trying to get it to be a podcast too. So I've been using the same platforms as you and everything. And
Ah,
it's a rental ready podcast. So once you get started, I would love to have you on mine as well. But it's
can do
fun too.
that. That's a deal.
Because I talk to people who are like involved in different aspects of the short term rental space. So like be cleaners, real estate agents, other property managers, designers, etc. So if you ever know of somebody too that would want to speak on mine, obviously send them my way. But yeah, it's great because you learn while you're doing it, and
Yeah.
that's what I love about what you're doing is that like you're taking this and you're learning, and then you're able to share it with other people and who are in similar situations to you.
Yeah, and the more you share it, like more people can like have value from it, right?
Yeah,
And you will never know like what gonna be the end result of it. So
exactly.
and
You
I
sure did.
and the same like you, like I enjoy genuinely having the conversations.
Yeah, it's fun and it's like that's the type of stuff that I like to talk about. So, I really do appreciate that you also like reached out because I was like, oh yeah, it's fun. It's a fun conversation no matter what.
Nice.
So what would you say so far from like talking to people that has like changed your mind where you like thought you had a mindset of like XYZ and now you see something different? Putting you on the spot.
I don't really think I have like that moment of completely changing, but with the fact that I'm talking with different type of investors, I can kind of tell like what I like to do, what I don't like to do. Like
Yeah.
I've spoken to developer, I've spoken to flippers, wholesalers, long-term investors, and short-term investors, right? I think wholesaling is not for me. Flipping probably not as well. Developing, I don't know. I think I need to talk to more developers. But yeah, I think I'm in between long term and short term. That's still
And you
like
can
way
do
too
both.
early for me to tell.
Yeah, and you can always do both and you're taking your time because I know
Yeah,
you said
like
that
like
you're gonna make a move
like you
probably.
just said, right? Like you're a proponent of actually splitting the risk, right? So a couple of long term rental properties, couple of Airbnbs, maybe like a warehouse, right? I do want to get a little bit um more strategical, if you don't mind. Like what's the percentage of people coming from Airbnb and from your IG page?
So actually it's so funny. I was just talking about this to someone the other day.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell, transparently. I would say probably more from Airbnb, but then oftentimes somebody will initially find my page and then book through Airbnb because I have the link on there directly. So I don't actually know what the percentage breakdown is, but I oftentimes will get messages which make me feel like it's about 25%.
Airbnb or 25% IG page?
25% that found me from Airbnb because a lot of times people will message me and be like, I saw your page. Like, because I always ask, like, how did you find me? Especially if they're booking directly with Airbnb. And I'll be like, how did you find me? And they're like, oh, we saw the Instagram or my friend tagged you and they went to your place, a year earlier or whatever that might be.
Yeah, and this is me, me, the marketer saying, but I think the point that you can't really tell is really good that you've done a good job integrating both platforms, right? Because the attribution from the marketing side is very complex, right? So like the fact that you can't really say how much is from Airbnb, the initial point of seeing what you do to like they actually booking, like it's like in wine into it, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, that's That's good.
Yeah, no, it has to be like merged like that. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to
And
because
exactly like nowadays, like you don't buy the first thing you see, right? You want to have references, you want to see the page, you want to see like maybe one of your friend actually like have interaction with them or even refer them, right? So I think
exactly.
having like two pillars for your business and you want to actually like spread the risks is perfect.
Yep. Yep. Because I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't just relying on one platform or one
And
thing.
I guess is that a strategy you have like in the beginning already or something it came with time?
Yeah, no, I wanted to do it from the beginning, but actually I'm
Huh?
going to reference this to see when I actually got the page up because I feel like I pretty much did the Pretty in Pink one from day one. And I'll look to see what months they were because it'll tell by my first post. So I'm scrolling. Okay. So yeah, the Pretty in Pink one, I closed on, yep, I closed on it in March 22 and the page was up in April 22.
Okay.
And then for the other one, let's see I closed November of 21 and then I ended up posting September of 22. So
That
that one was a little longer. And the other thing I'd like to add about the pages too, which I really enjoy,
uh-huh.
is I reference the other one in each of them, like our sister property.
Hmm.
And then I also, it can get pretty boring, and I've seen people do this before, but to just post like pictures of the kitchen or, pictures of the living room. I also, something I'm really passionate about is when I go to the different cities, I try out everything in the local market. I'm literally psycho. I will go to every single neighborhood restaurant,
Hmm.
coffee shop, museum, attraction. Like I am your go-to. Like oftentimes I find myself talking to people, maybe it's from work, my like corporate job, we have offices in both locations. But like they were like, "Oh my God, Brittany, I've lived here for 35 years and I haven't done any of this or haven't done this much." Like I make myself specifically since my place is in Hampton by Phoebus, I explore all of that area and then in Nashville, East Nashville, and I'm like
Hmm.
perfect about the things within a mile from my house. But then I also go out further. I
Yes.
might go out like another even 30 minutes out in the area and then I'm able to also give any type of recommendations to guests that they might need and then I also am supporting and giving back to the local community and the local businesses. And then on top of that, on the Instagram pages, I advertise the local attractions too. So my page isn't only just showcasing my property, but just like the full experience of what you'd be doing in the area.
Yeah, in the end, right, hospitality, right, and real estate, it should be like part of the city, right? And you
Yeah.
actually like wanna know everything about the city, go to a coffee shop, like know the city in and out, right?
Yeah.
I think you will have an easier time doing what you do compared to if you don't have that aspect in you.
Yep. And it's fun. It's like enjoyable. If people don't want to do that, like, they don't have to. But once again, hire somebody. So like I always initially start when I'm setting the place up.
Hmm.
I'll do that, in any sort of downtime I have. And then when I come back, I just continue. I don't go to the same spot every time. I
Yeah,
mean, naturally, I've been to Nashville and the Virginia Beach area a lot.
yeah,
And I am able to be repeat, obviously, but I also just like I love to cook, but I'm not gonna do a bunch of cooking. I just want to support, everything locally. And it's funny too, because I initially started doing this when I lived in DC,
hmm,
my neighborhood there too. My neighbor and I always joke that when we get together, she's like, I haven't tried this or that spot. And I've lived here for 7 years. And I'm like, every time there's something new that opens, I'm like the first one that wants to go try it. So it does come in handy when you want to make recommendations.
yeah. And I think we just answer like my question in the beginning, right? For what type of person, what type of investor, short-term rental like makes sense? Yeah, exactly this.
Yeah, exactly this. If, once again, the caveat, if you want to be hands on, if
Yeah.
you don't, then totally fine. Just find somebody who wants to be.
Okay. I have one more strategic question I want to ask. in the beginning, you mentioned like when you started out, you just wanted a second home and
Yeah.
with your dad supporting it, right? But like right now, if you invest in new properties, you're way more strategic. Like what's on your list?
Yeah. So when I fill out the document, I just try to see like, okay, I compare numbers on like AirDNA, this website,
Hmm.
and I see, okay, similar listings. So you can initially put in like, okay, 4 bed, 4 bath, this neighborhood, if that's like the same size as the property that you're specifically looking at. But then on top of that, you want to go a little further and see, okay, based on what you plan to do design and or
Hmm.
decor wise, what properties, what listings from there match what you're going to do. Because you're going to try to make your place better. And then on top of that, amenities. Okay, so do all these places have this? Mine has a pool. Do these places have a pool? Or mine has a hot tub? Do these places have a hot tub? And then you compare the similar listings and you can see how they did revenue wise. So then you can project, okay, this place made 100,000 last year. Mine should be able to make 100,000. So you put that in with an, XYZ occupancy rate. And then you also put in, okay, so the estimated, okay, this is what, the mortgage is going to cost. This is what, utilities are going to be. This is what, lawn care, what pool care, what in taxes, all these different things are going to be so that you're able to kind of get an idea of how much cash flow you're going to be getting.
Okay.
And then I also look into
And
safety.
and like the listings, are these like numbers you have for the open market, or how do you get like the numbers for the revenue and all that? Or are we talking about
The projected revenue.
yeah?
AirDNA. It's a website called AirDNA. AIRDNA.
Can you say that again?
AirDNA. So AIRDNA.
RDA. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it.
And you get the idea. So yeah, I'm pretty strategic, and I use this Excel document. I'm part of this mastermind program. It's like very large program, and it's like mentorship classes, all that, and they have a great Excel document that like thousands of investors have used, and that's like what I'm utilizing now. I
Nice.
make my own tweaks here and there too, but and then I also have other friends who have their own documents. So I usually try to compare with multiple. And so very, very careful now when I'd be helping others and giving them advice.
Okay, Brittany, I
Oh
think
no,
you're
are we
gone.
frozen? Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah,
Oh
you're back.
no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. You
Oh,
heard
good.
the
I
last
can
part, but I was
edit it
pretty
out.
much saying, oh, okay. I was going to say I compare other documents as well and see, like, based on what other people have done and what documents they use so that we can just make sure that it's a good investment for whoever's looking for one.
Okay. Okay. I think I've like maybe like one final like open question, or maybe like, do you have another question for me?
No, I think one
Okay.
final would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um. So like looking back 3 years, is there maybe like one thing you want to share, or what's like the most important thing you've learned on your 3 years journey?
That's a good question. Okay, my gosh. I would just say being adaptable, not having a fixed mindset, having a growth mindset, realizing that it's almost like the more you see, the less you know. You feel like an expert and then you learn more and you realize how much you don't know and how much other people do. So just, doing that and then being able to adapt to the speed of the game. The market's constantly pivoting. Airbnb
Yeah.
isn't what it used to where you could just list a room in your house with a mattress on the floor. Like you have to be having design that's eye catching. You have to market it properly. Like I'd say just adapting to the speed of the game.
I like the answer.